how did you get started in entertainment business, first of all?
It's one of those things in life. In my head, I was going to be this great football player. I had some talent. I won't say I was the best football player, but I had some talent, and I blew my knee out in high school. And
Hmm.
so football wasn't going to be an option, and so I needed something to do. So I got into drama and did a lot of theater. Did a off Broadway stuff, minor stuff, and my senior year, one of their casting folks from Nickelodeon just just happened to be poking around the school, talked to my drama professor. He recommended three of us to do an audition. We did a couple of auditions, and things just kind of fell the right way. It's funny. I remember because I'd gone to a couple of the auditions, and I got a phone call that I wasn't selected. So I was so bummed out, and then I got a call back and said, "Oh my God, that was a message. That was an error. You were selected." So yeah, I remember that was a pretty cool day. I was pretty excited.
Yeah, and so the Nickelodeon like audition people around high schools around the area for you? Is that how you got it? Or,
Yeah, well, this is I've gotten several different stories from several different people, but as best as I can put it together with Out of Here, I think they started with one host, and I think Bruce was originally going to be a host, but the executive director or executive producer at the time, I think he had a slightly different vision. I think he saw this as kind of a team-based, collaborative kind of thing. So
hmm
he started looking for other people. I think I was the only. I think I was the only other true high school candidate that was auditioned. In fact, I might be the only one. I think Bruce did a traditional. He went through the traditional casting process. I was the one that they just went to a bunch of high schools, and I was the guy they selected from the high school. The other, Karen, was traditional. She had an agent in New York, and that was a very traditional audition. And Tiffany, she worked at Universal Studios. I think she was a tour guide, and I think she might have known the executive producer at the time. I believe
hmm
what my memory tells me. So I think that's how that all went down. But it was just kind of a catacall of high school people, and I just got lucky.
Nickelodeon Studios, this was right when, really when the building got set into stone. It was opening
Right.
day, and just like, what was your first impression of the place, first of all, when you got there?
It was magical. I remember. I think the first time I saw the place was the last audition I had. I had to actually go there, and it was the day that I literally graduated high school. It was my last day of high school, and the audition was the same day. So I hauled butt from Tampa to Orlando, and I just remember pulling in, going through the kind of the security entrance on the from the backstage perspective, and I just felt so amazed because I'm 17, and here's this really cool real studio, and I'm getting to walk in and see kind of the backstage of things. And going in, they had the set of Double Dare was there. I think there was something else that might have been there as well. But I just remember going through the sound stages when they were kind of showing me around a little bit, and it was just amazing. You definitely felt very, very fortunate.
Yeah, Double Dare, that was one of the things that took place there, and I'm gonna guess Total Panic, that was really what.
I think there were two. I remember two things in that they had like two sound stages. Double Dare was there, and they had just wrapped up. I think, but the set was still where they were going to, and there was something else there, but my memory is a little foggy.
Mm. And the set for Outta Here was it was kind of like so different for me because it was plastered with so many logos about Florida and Nickelodeon studios. They really wanted to deck the place and promote the heck out of the studio though. So that was always the appeal to me, the set for Outta Here.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything. It was loud. It was obnoxious. When you think of the dress in the late '80s, that the set took cues from like a fat shoelaces with the bright neon colors and just the loud. That's how the set was designed. And to your point, yeah, there were a lot of cool Florida logos. It definitely, if you were flipping through the channels and you just saw the set in the background, it definitely caught your eye. You may have loved it. Might have hated it, but it caught your eye.
One of the aspects was the studio tour, and for the and when the guests they could like watch you guys from the glass monitor. Do you remember that part?
I do. Oh man, you know, in between tapings or when we had free time, I mean, we ran, and I say we, it was basically the four of us. Well, more or less the four of us. We would run through that entire building, the entire studio, from top to bottom, probably places we weren't supposed to be. And it was always a cool view seeing what the tour folks could see. And during if you were paying attention and if you looked the right way, I remember being in the sound stage. You could see groups kind of walking through and looking, but you had to know they were there and when they were going to be there. Otherwise, I don't know that you ever really noticed. But that I just remember they had a great view of everything that was going on. And actually, I think once we actually did the tour, and I think Tiffany was a tour guide and actually gave the tour at one point. I remember correctly, not sure. But it was cool, and they got a lot of information. And again, most of these people, they're from Middle America. I mean, they've never seen a soundstage. They don't know how productions work, and they got a great education. And more importantly, they were pretty excited. So, I don't think there was a bored person on that tour.
And that's what really what made this place so popular is because there was really no other place like it that was offering tours at the time, especially just to go in and see the stars up close and personal. I think that's really what made it stand out first of all.
No, no question. And I remember, and a year or two later, I ended up working for Walt Disney. Walt Disney World. I worked there for a number of years. And right at that time, Hollywood or it was MGM Studios at the time opened up, and I got a chance to see both. And I got to tell you, with the actual ability to tour live active sound stages, whereas kind of on the MGM side of things, it was really more. A facade. It really wasn't a working soundstage environment. They might disagree with that, but that was certainly my opinion. That's what made the whole Universal Nickelodeon tour stand out. It was real. People actually used it. So it was very cool, especially if you went to one and then went to the other. You were definitely more impressed with the Nickelodeon slash Universal setup.
Right, right. I mean, it was definitely something outstanding for all of us. Now that you mentioned the MGM studio lot and Universal being there at the time, I think you remember the whole Hollywood East craze that was craving in Orlando back then. But wasn't it exciting at the time, an exciting time to be there with all the TV production taking place?
Yeah, and from what I remember, it was a very I don't know what the right word is, but it was very interesting. It was probably a great case study for kind of business in general, particularly entertainment business, because there was a push because of the theme parks and the studio-based theme parks that were opening up, Hollywood, MGM Hollywood, and Universal. There was this push, man, probably from the studios that opened up the theme parks to really get production out there. And hey, Orlando's going to be the next big thing. And they were really trying to get people out there. And I know for a number of years that was the buzz. But for whatever reason, I felt like it peaked around, I'm going to say 94, 95 is maybe when it peaked here. And then I guess, other states started to provide more aggressive incentives with filming. And I know a lot of people, whenever you spoke with people who came out of LA or New York, they kind of like Florida, but they always wanted to go back to New York and LA. I guess those two cities just, they're both great cities, and I'm sure they probably just had a lot more to offer because, when you come here and you come from New York or LA, this is a little slower. It's not quite as, the great clubs aren't here. The great, some of the things you're used to if you're coming from LA or New York aren't here. So I think people enjoyed it for the short run if they were on the production side, but they always remember, they always talk about how much they miss New York or LA and wanting to get back there. So I'm sure that kind of factored in long term with the whole buzz. But no, for a number of years, it was definitely a big deal.
I think one of the issues is that Florida is just really seen as a vacationing place, not like a home base feel to it. And but I really like it. I mean, there's so many good things about Orlando's that's almost reminiscent to Los Angeles, the palm trees and International Drive. But at the same time, it wasn't. I wish there were more like studio lots. I think that really could have pushed it and getting it forward to make it more, like a Hollywood thing. I think that.
Yeah, I listen. I totally think you're right. I've traveled like all over this country, literally. I mean, it's been a good time here, but I've lived here all my life for a reason. It's because I agree with you. I just think Central Florida and Florida in general is where you want to be, just in terms of lifestyle. At least for me, definitely understand why L.A., California, New York, a few other places are cool. But no, this is home.
Yeah. And, did you ever get to see any celebrities at all who came to visit Universal or around this whole time?
Definitely. On the show we hosted. We had a lot of celebrities that were on the show. Basically, there would be a product or something that they were trying to promote, so they'd come on the show pretty regularly. The one that I recall, I know there were a few, and I don't remember all, but the one that sticks out for me was Bo Jackson. I got a chance to interview Bo Jackson, and he was selling this little electronic game, which on one end you kind of played it with football, and if you turned it 180 degrees, it was in baseball because he was the double threat. So he was the celebrity for me that stands out. But there were a lot of celebrities that came through that we got a chance to meet briefly or see. I think every host on the show interviewed, I'm going to say, two or three different celebrities, and had a cool experience. But no, it was always cool.
An iconic '90s star who came to visit was that you guys got to interview was Vanilla Ice. Though, does that bring back
I,
something?
I, I do. Yeah, I definitely didn't interview him, but I do remember seeing him.
Hmm.
And yes, that was right at the height, or right. That was right really when he was. I don't remember. Boy, you're going back now,
Oh
1990s.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I think he was just taking off. He was
Mm.
just taking off. So we knew he was big. We didn't know he would be. What is the word? Kind of an iconic late '80s, early '90s kind of rap star.
Right, and he was a Florida guy too, so I'm thinking pretty much he was like repping the whole state, and some guest fans were excited that he got to visit there. But like you said, it was really during the time he was starting to take off, so maybe he
Right.
was just starting out. But getting back to the set and shooting, like what was a typical day of shooting the show there out of here at the studio? What did you guys have to do to prepare?
Well, boy, it varied. The first half of we were on. I want to say we started the pilot like in June, and I think we started shooting regularly late July, if my memory serves me correct, early August, something like that. And we shot through the rest of the year. The first half of the year, we had it was a 5 day, if my memory serves me correct, a 5 day schedule where maybe we'd shoot one show a day, something along those lines. But the second half of the year, we went to kind of a weekend format, or kind of a 2 or 3 day format, from what I remember. And then we would shoot like 3, 4 shows, maybe more in a day. So
Mm.
I know for some of the challenges we had because we were doing so many shows in a day, depending on what park attendance is. Because in the fall, park attendance is a little lighter. One of the challenges we would have is having enough people in the studio audience.
Mm.
So there were times we had to bust in. We'd had to reach out or contact local boys and girls clubs, schools, other entities that had kids, and we would literally pack the bleachers full of kids from an outside group if it was a slow park day and um, they didn't have enough people to fill the stadium, the set there. Because again, when we were shooting multiple shows, we needed, on some days, it wasn't many, but there were just some days that we really had to work hard to get enough people to fill the bleachers. Because with our show, it was very audience oriented, and you had to vote. So we really needed every seat occupied so they could participate.
Now that you said that, it's a good idea that you guys went out into the park and got to interview some, like, talk to guests that were visiting the park. And so I think that was one of the main aspects that you guys that thought, okay, we can't fill out the audience quite yet, but maybe if we could go out to the park, we could keep the show going, if you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
well, and from what I remember, we always, maybe there were a couple of shows that maybe, I think Scott was the director, maybe he didn't pan out too wide on for a few episodes, and I'm sure he kind of kept things nice and tight. But for the most part, we were able to get people, but there were a few shows I remember that, if we were shooting, and again, let's say 3 or 4 shows in a day, and the average audience member, because they didn't want to come to the park and they didn't want to ride the rides and had other things on their agenda. After about, I'd say, 2 hours, they were itching to get out. So we had to just be kind of mindful and respectful of their time and work there. But again, with the exception of maybe a couple episodes, we uh, bussed them in or talked with them or got with the tours coming through. We were generally able to fill the seat.
And speaking of the park and you guys going out there and talking to guests, I mean, like you said earlier, Universal has definitely grown a lot as a park, but back then and compared to now, what was your favorite ride or attraction that you loved to visit at Universal Studios?
It's gone. It's gone now. It was sad. It's Hanna and Barbera.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was actually the attraction that was closest to our studio, so it was functional. We wanted to run into the park, we would run in and get on Hanna Barbera. The reason why I loved it, I mean, as a kid, if you grew up around when I did, you
Mm-hmm.
grew up on the Flintstones, the
Right.
Jetsons, Yogi Bear, with all these guys, and they highlighted it in one ride. And at the time, that ride system, you didn't see that. Definitely nowhere in the state of Florida had a ride system quite like that, where and the interaction was in your face. It was written very well. It was quick. Even the pre-show. That's one thing that they got right. The pre-show was engaged. I remember shortly after Hanna-Barbera, maybe a year, 6 months, something, Back to the Future came online.
Yeah.
Fantastic ride. But they had a lot of technical. I remember that ride was down a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
Hanna-Barbera was the one for me that was always my favorite. The whole park, that whole idea of kind of ride the movies was
Mm-hmm.
so cutting edge and so neat. I know when guests walked into that park, it was always a cool experience to be able to ride the movies. Some of the attractions may not have been super exciting, but for the most part, these folks have never seen anything like it, and it was always, people were always pretty excited about it when they left.
I said this before, like the park and Nickelodeon just bouncing off of one another. Like it really felt like just for a guest to be like a star in the middle of a whole movie studio lot or television studio lot. I mean, that's something that is one of the best highlights of your life. I feel like that's just a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think.
Yeah, and again, it's been a while, but I remember some of the attractions, or even when you walk around the street, they were really the first to actually give guests that really cool experience of making them feel like a star. So they would incorporate them in some of the attractions, or they have like fake celebrities walking around, and they would actually involve, yeah, that are there.
What's also cool is that, so many people have said that the people at Nick were so fantastic, but from your experience, how great was everyone who worked there? I always hear positive stories, though.
I got to tell you, and again, when you're 17, I don't know how people savvy you are. I probably was a little naive with some things, but that I could see with my eyes and what I could hear with my ears. Everyone was so cool. Everyone was supportive, friendly. As you get older, different work environments. I'm sure there were a lot of things going on that I didn't know about or didn't hear or was a little naive to, like I said. But on the surface, great people. Um, sometimes we would do things after work on the weekends. We'd go places. We'd do things with each other. Just a bunch of cool people. So again, if I had the same experience where I am now, I'm sure I'd see things slightly differently. But no, at that point in time, everyone was fantastic.
I think it's because you guys were secluded out of LA and New York, and it really felt like a family-friendly environment. Like just to say, like, let's work together and let's make this right. Like we're in Orlando, let's just make this the best we can. And you guys just weren't pressured. I feel like I think it was just like a safe, easy kind of environment to work in.
Yeah, I think that's because it was new. We were building something that was creative. And again, with the exception of maybe one or two people, everybody else was from somewhere else.
Hmm.
So when they came here, we just kind of gelled. We became family because we didn't have any family or a lot of friends in the area. So that's what also made it really click. And again, it's a new park. Everything's new. The whole future is ahead of us in terms of production, in terms of opportunity. So it just made it a real cool environment. I definitely very fond when I think about it.
Sad thing is that, out of here, it's virtually like disappeared. Like, except for one I'm talking literally one episode online. There's really no trace of it online. And do you feel like looking back, the show didn't really get the proper treatment, and why there's no like you can't really find anything about online now? Why do you think it is? Like, is there a reason behind
Well,
that?
the show was a great show. I remember when I would ask the questions about ratings and how are we doing. I remember at the time we would bounce somewhere between a 1 and a 2, which doesn't sound like much, but back then that was pretty good. It was better than what they were getting before. Now, I think if they put reruns of, I don't know, Ren and Stimpy, whatever was playing at the time, they probably would get a 1. And so our ratings, we were consistently above that. But I think, from what I remember, midway through the show, there was a change with the executive producer. One left, one came on board, and I think she definitely wanted to go back to New York, and I think her mind was made up about what was going to happen moving forward, no matter what.
Mm.
And so when that happened, and we only ran for those 6 months. I just and because the show was very current events driven, maybe that didn't transfer well. If you watch the show, some of the episodes, we would talk about what's going on, and maybe I'm guessing that maybe the show just didn't work very well, a year or two out, like some of the other things that put in rerun. So
Hmm.
that's speculation, but that's one of the. I know that kind of when we had a transition in with the executive producer, her mind was pretty made up from the beginning that we would complete this, and regardless of the ratings, regardless of what people thought, my recollection was that was where she was leaning.
Feel like out of here, I think it was kind of different, and I think it was definitely what was needed back then, especially with current events with Nick News that was on with Linda Ellaby, and you had Teen Summit that was on BET. I just feel like out here it was really an important show, and I think especially for nowadays you have so much stuff going on in the world, it would really see do good with teens getting involved in current events, especially with social
And
media
the
too.
other thing with the whole involvement, current events, and I love it now because I can't think of the shows, but where you see now audiences get interactive with whatever the hosts are talking about. When I think that we were the first ones doing that, nobody was doing that. Was unheard of. I remember the software guy. They brought in the software guy just to program the whole voting process and make sure everything was being. He was this guy had a couple of monitors and a computer, and he was basically sitting behind one of the bleachers. I want to say it's purple bleachers. He would sit behind, and sometimes when we weren't doing anything or we were shooting and we came back in, we could go and watch the actual votes as people were pushing the buttons. It would tabulate on a screen and then get loaded in and then uploaded, I'm sure, up to where the director was at, so they could actually put the actual results on TV. But there was nothing like that. So when I get a chuckle anytime you see any sort of interactive audience participation, because I was like, hey, I think, to the best of my knowledge, we were the first ones to be part of that.
Yeah, I love the audience participation, and especially with social media, that's really everywhere now. It could definitely do hands down like 10 times better if we were to bring it back now. But hey, that's just my opinion, though.
Sure.
And so, do you have like a favorite behind the scenes memory from being at Nickelodeon, though, from hanging out there?
I remember when we had the opportunity in between tapings, running through the park, um, being able to go to the park when it was open, when it was closed, being able to see it from that viewpoint. The other cool thing, and again, really would have, looking back at it, was very cool. At the time, Nickelodeon was sending all of their other producers, executive producers, and folks down because they had a lot of office space at the studio, and we got to see what was in production, what was coming online, like Nick Arcade. I can't remember the producer's name. There were a couple producers there. We got to watch them build that show a year or two before it actually aired. In fact, I remember they gave me a couple of games to go home and play and kind of give me their opinion on it. They probably already had an opinion on it, but they were just being nice. But I thought it was cool that you got to see the development of things coming down the line, and it was cool to see it actually take form them and actually get aired. So that was the other. The Nick Arcade, there were a couple, but the Nick Arcade one stands out more than most because, again, at the time, there weren't an interactive video game show. Who's heard of that? I mean, there was an older video game show, but it wasn't interactive. And that's one thing that Nickelodeon was always doing. They were always kind of cutting edge, trying to figure out what do kids want to see, what's that next great thing, and getting to see what was coming down the pipeline was always very cool.
Yeah, Nick Arcade was definitely groundbreaking, and the producers, Kareem Matef and James Badea, were very nice and supportive as well. But I have to mention, this is really important, the highlight question of your life. Were you ever slimed? Did you ever get to get slimed by any chance?
I think I got, forgive me, I know this is embarrassing. I think I got gacked. I'm pretty sure, I want to say we all, because that was one of the other, when you walked through there, you had wardrobe, you had makeup, and right next to there is where they kind of made all the slime and the gack.
Yeah, the gack kitchen.
Yeah, it was so cool to actually see it, be able to touch it. I know I tasted it because I'm a pig. I try anything.
Yeah.
So I want to say we all got a little bit on us if we didn't get outright slimed or gacked at some point. I know I got gacked. I think I got slimed too, but it's been a while.
Yeah, the slime. It's kind of like it has this sweet and sour taste to it. That I tasted it before, but yeah, I meant
I remember the oatmeal, and I love oatmeal. That's why it stands out. I remember the oatmeal, and it was very, very cool.
If you don't mind me asking, like, what are you up to these days? Like, I'm probably guessing you're no longer working entertainment though, but now I guess a lot of fans want to catch up with you and stuff.
Yeah, long story short, when one of the things that if Nickelodeon would have never called me, I was had applied because of the Florida State. Education was very important to me. And I ended up finishing at University of Central Florida, but I'm a campus director for a university in the Central Florida area. And love it. I love higher education, changes lives. It's the thing that gets me excited, and I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I love that because especially love the UCF campus though. I think it's one magnificent school and one really large school. I must say, University of Central Florida. I really like it.
I would say there's another campus in Florida, Nova Southeastern University, almost as big. That's also very impressive. But yeah, University of Central Florida, very very impressive as well.
Outta Here is not really remembered, but it's certainly a part of that whole era of the '90s Nickelodeon era, and shows it's coming back. It's held such a special place in people's heart. But how do you feel knowing that these shows made such a positive impact on fans that still love today, the '90s Nick era and Outta Here and all that stuff?
I'm very proud. I'm very proud with Nickelodeon, what they did, what they've always stood for. Always interesting programming. And I'm just glad I was able to be a part of it for the brief time that I was a part of it. It was just amazing. So I always look forward. And the thing that was so cool, and you see how important it is, and this is where it's kind of a cool thing. People watch the programming like we watch programming on TV, and they fall in love with it. And to be able to visit it in an orchestrated way, kind of like they do with tours, it is almost a life-changing experience for a lot of people. I met so many fans that just fell in love with the fact that they're at Nickelodeon, and they didn't just it wasn't lip service. You could tell that their heart was connected to it. So just being a part of something that touched other people, again, it's the reason why I chose the profession that I chose, because it connects with people, it helps people, it's meaningful for people. It's outstanding. I'm always very proud of it and proud of what impact it had on me.
This is how I view it. I just feel like television connects to people's heart in a way, even though it's kind of an escape and a free from your personal life. It just captures your heart. Television. That's what I see it as.
Yeah, and then you couple that with being able to physically go there and touch, or have the experience, the interactive experience. It's just icing on the cake, so to speak. I mean, I love, for years, I love football, and I watched the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and, you see it on TV, but to actually go there, which I've gone several times now, it's just a magical experience. You just literally will bring tears in your eyes, and sometimes with with a lot of the folks that were Nickelodeon fans, you see those same tears, that same sort of passion when they walked in. It was very cool, and yeah, I get it. And again, very proud to even be remotely associated with.
Absolutely. I totally agree and understand. And with Nick Studios, this April will be 10 years since it closed. And can you believe that? But, so many fans, they just miss the place and think that it was such a great place to be at. But for you, would you like to see it reopen one day? Do you think it should come back?
Sure, sure. I think there's definitely a place for it. You know what that park was built on is just that interactive special opportunity to see the TV that you love and interact with it. And
Hmm.
I think they're missing the boat a little bit on that. I'm sure there's some accountant somewhere that has a very business minded reason why maybe they didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe it's not that simple, but I definitely think it would add a whole new dimension and drive people to that place to see the programming that they love, and get a chance to interact with the set, maybe even interact with some of the folks that put it on. Definitely, I don't think you can understate how important that is.
And finally, like I think you said a lot, but what do you think made Nick Studios in Florida so great and special, though?
It boils down to access because and obviously I'm not out in LA. I haven't seen every sound stage. I don't know what some of the practices are, but from what I've seen, the little bit that I've seen, it's the only place where fans actually had a chance to walk on the stage. I'm not even talking about, go to the bleachers and stay 50 feet away from, they were there. They were on stage. They were part of the show. And they got to interact with the show in a way that, you don't see that anywhere. And again, I know we created a lot of fans. Maybe not enough, but definitely created a lot of fans with how things were set up. So it was always, yeah, it was cool.
I'm really proud that I'm talking to you guys because I've learned a great deal about how much goes into the TV shows and what you guys did. So that's really what I want to create this project for, just to see that this place did a lot of beneficial in the minds of children's entertainment, and it was nicknamed the world's first headquarters for kids, Nick Studios. And
Right.
so I'm just
And
really,
the guy user. I mean, they put that in shortly
hmm
after the studio. It was very kid friendly. It was definitely cool.
absolutely. But yeah, again, it was really good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, cool. Well, you have a very nice day, and I will talk to you later.
Take care.
All right, bye bye.